Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do the Avengers Book Tag. I was tagged by Cara from Wilde Garden several months ago. I'm still recovering from Endgame, just do not talk to me, okay? Shush. But I really love that this tag was created as a tribute to Stan Lee, because without Stan Lee, we wouldn't have this wonderful universe. And I am forever grateful to him because I am Marvel garbage. I have yet to read the comics because I've never been a huge comic fan for some reason. I don't know, the format has never clicked with me for some reason. But I absolutely love this world and this universe in all of its forms because of the stories that it tells and the characters being the way that they are. And just knowing a little bit about the background of it all is just extra special. Without further ado, let's jump into this lovely tag tribute. Number 1, Ironman / Tony Stark, a book that made you laugh out loud. First, I just have to put this out there. Tony Stark is my favorite of all of them. I adore him. And now, answering the question, I've got 2 books I want to mention for this. The first one is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And the second one is An Irish Country Doctor by Patrick Taylor. Talking a little bit about Good Omens first, it's a parody / satire on the biblical apocalypse, and it is just written in such a wonderful way that I just died laughing and screaming for a large chunk of it because of just the character interactions and the way that things are written. And it was just subtle but also blatant, and it was just such a wonderful thing to read. Plus it helped me get out of a major slump that I was having. I'd say book hangover because it was one of the books that I read right after I decided that it was time to get out of my ROTE / Assassin's Fate major book hangover that literally lasted for 2 months. So I am forever grateful to Good Omens for helping me with that. And then second, as I mentioned, is An Irish Country Doctor by Patrick Taylor. And that book, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, is about a young Irish doctor named Barry Laverty, who's fresh out of medical school, and he's getting ready to go for his first job interview. And he goes to this small country town called Ballybucklebow, which is in Northern Ireland, and he meets this old, crotchety, grumpy, snarky doctor named Fingal Flaherty O'Reilly. And he has a very, very particular way of going about doing things, and Barry doesn't always agree with them. But he ultimately takes the job and gets to learn about all the kinds of crazy shenanigans that happen in country life. And it's just a wonderful, lovely, hilarious story that I loved with my whole soul. If you guys are familiar with the Hallmark movies or books, that book is very, very similar to that. It's very much a feel-good book to the point where it's so pure and happy. I mean, there's some conflict and there's a little bit of dramatic aspects to it, but it feels very real. And I just really, really, really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it. Now, number 2, Captain America / Steve Rogers. Also one of my favorite characters. Honestly, I love all of the Avengers, okay? We're gonna go there. But the question for that is a book that sends a positive message. And the book I'm picking for this is called The Confidence Code by Katty Kay, and I believe her name is Marie Shipman. And basically, this is a really, really positive book for women and girls to read because it really focuses on how women have a really hard time dealing with confidence in school and the workplace. And it's kind of all of these different ways that we can start to remedy that. And it's just got a really positive message behind it. And it's backed by a lot of research and science and stuff. And I just would recommend it to honestly really anyone, but particularly people who identify as female. It's a really powerful and really, really well written book. Number 3, Black Widow / Natasha Romanov, a book with a kick-butt female protagonist. Now, I'm breaking my rule here, and I'm going to talk about the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Romanov because it is full of not only one protagonist, but several kick-ass female protagonists, and it is just so incredibly well done. And it shows that there are types of strength. You know, a lot of people think about, physical kick-assness, but there's also inner strength and quieter strength as well that is also kind of showing kick-ass features. And that trilogy just has all of it packed into one compact thing. And I can't recommend it enough. I mean, seriously, if you don't know that I love Robin Hobb, where have you been? Where have you been? Because I talk about it on my channel like all the time. So definitely check all of them out. But if you want a standalone trilogy and you want it to be feminine, you can read that one as a solo and be totally fine. But if you want to read the full series, don't start with that one. Like, I did a whole thing. I'll link my playlist up above, but definitely go check out my reading order video so you can kind of find out a little bit more about that. Number 4, Hawkeye / Clint Barton. Talk about an underrated book you wish more people would pay attention to. It's actually a trilogy, but I don't know the actual name of the trilogy. I didn't know it was a trilogy until recently, and I've only read the first 2 books in it, and they are Wise Child and Juniper by Monica Furlong. I read these books when I was a kid. My grandma got them for me, or she had them for other grandchildren or something, and we read them together, and we really, really enjoyed them. And all I remember about them is that they were a really unique kind of fantasy / children's literature. And it's kind of about, based on Celtic lore and Celtic history kind of time periods. And it's kind of dealing with sorcery and earth magic and stuff like that. It's really, really great. I really liked both of them a lot. And I just don't know really anyone. I've never heard anyone on BookTube talk about it. And even in real life, I don't know literally anyone that has ever read these books. So I want to talk to people about them because I'm actually planning on doing a reread of them very soon because I haven't read them since I was 7 or 8, maybe. It's been a long time. And I recently found them again, and I remembered how much I really enjoyed them, and I figured it's time for me to talk about them. I don't know anyone who does, and they're definitely underrated books that more people should read. Number 5, Hulk / Bruce Banner, a book that made you incredibly angry. I can talk about several books that fall into this category, but a recent book that made me really angry was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, but also another one was Summer of Katya by Trevannion. Both of them had aspects to them that made me incredibly angry. If you haven't read the Handmaid's Tale, just know that it's a dystopian society where women are oppressed and used as government sex slaves. That's the gist of that book. There's a lot more to it than that, but you get the gist from that little blurb right there. And it's also a very, very heavily triggering book, so if you are triggered at all by rape, sexual assault, things along those lines, tread very, very carefully. And then The Summer of Katya, I can't really tell you why it made me angry, except for the fact that the ending of the book made me incredibly angry because of how it was explained and because of the rationale behind why something happened. It's just a hard no for me. So those 2 are definitely books that made me super angry. Number 6, Thor. Also one of my favorite characters. An argument could be made that I am very much Thor-like, but that's a discussion for another time. A book with a character whose strength you admired. I guess you could say The Song of Achilles is one because it shows strength in a very different way. I mean, we have Achilles, who's very much physical strength, like he is the embodiment of physical strength. But then we have Patroclus, who is kind of more about that inner strength, and he's just got a lot of things going for him. And so I just love seeing that contrast within that book. I mean, also in the Iliad as well, but it's even more so in The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, in case I didn't say who it was by. But definitely a really great book if you haven't read it. And then number 7 is a bonus question, and that is Loki. A book with a twist or surprise that tricked you. So in case you don't know this about me, most books don't surprise me in terms of plot things because I'm able to predict them, or I speculate about them and then I come up with like all these theories and things and I'm just able to figure them out. It's a thing that is really, really prevalent in my household. My mom does it. We both do it with TV shows and movies. We're like, oh, this is going to happen, and we speculate a lot. And then I do it a lot with my friends as well. So, I mean, it's just kind of become second nature for me to do it. But one book that I guess you could say it took me by surprise, but it's just more that I wasn't expecting it to go in the direction that it was. And that is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. That book just takes so many twists and turns that I was not expecting. And it was done in such a really clever and masterful way. And it just, you can't help but fall into it and be absolutely captivated by it. I mean, there were certain threads of the plot that were predictable, but then there were all of these other things in there, particularly like the historical aspects and just different takes on things. Are actually things like taken from history and just intertwined in this lore that was just so well done, and I wasn't expecting it to go in the direction that it was going in. So I guess that is one book that had unpredictability to it that I wasn't expecting. But I don't want to call it like a twist or surprise because I wasn't either of those things. So yeah, those are all the questions. There are a few people I'm going to tag, but I'll just put them in the description below because I haven't officially decided everyone yet. But I really loved doing this tag, and I thank Cara so much for tagging me in this. And if you've read any of these books or seen any of the Marvel movies or the comics, definitely come talk to me down below or come find me on Twitter and scream at me over there because I'm always down to talk Marvel with people and books. I mean, both of those things that was implied, right? Okay, great. But, you know, other than that, you guys know the drill. And as I said, both of my social media links are down below in the description. I have a Twitter, which I mentioned earlier, which is @ASeaofTomes, which is the same as my handle here. And I also have a Goodreads, which is also linked down below. And you can come follow me over there and see what I've been reading and keep track of my progress and see my general superficial ratings on things before I come and scream at you about them over here. And I will catch you later in another video soon. Bye!